Amazing twist. Arrogant officer doubts black FBI supervisor's badge. 8.4 Mars career exposed. Jordan Banks, an ambitious 34-year-old FBI supervisor in Atlanta, was on the verge of what many considered a monumental career breakthrough. He dedicated years of relentless work to reach this point, fueled by the love and lessons instilled by his family. Hard work and integrity were the cornerstones of his upbringing, but as he prepared to dive into an investigation with the potential to reshape his community, he felt an unease tug at his conscience. On a routine call with Officer Mark Higgins, the man's arrogance radiated off him, eliminating any chance of professionalism. Higgins's condescending smirk cut straight to Jordan's core, his authority doubted solely because of the color of his skin. The encounter was jarring. Jordan felt his heart race, blood pounding in his ears. He'd worked tirelessly. His badge wasn't just a symbol. It was the culmination of grit against systemic barriers. But Higgins viewed him as an outsider. Jordan clenched his jaw. How could he combat such a blatant disregard for his authority? Fighting back the mounting tension within him, Jordan tried to maintain a facade of composure. Doubts flashed through his mind. His parents had sacrificed to provide him the future they dreamt for him. Was this the peak of his career or merely the precipice of disaster? Every insult piggybacked another insecurity, and he questioned if he could survive the political game involved in exposing local crime, a career milestone that could elude him in a heartbeat. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the investigation underway, the pressure mounted. A powerful law firm began to lurk in the shadows, undermining his efforts, their whispers clawing at his confidence. Inexperienced, they muttered. Each dismissal felt like weight pressing down on Jordan's chest. The economic inequalities he thought he could navigate clawed at his resolve, exacerbating his fears. Was he merely an imposter in a system designed to see him stumble? As new struggles arose, he sought counsel from a mentor, an old-school cop who'd traveled through the trenches of their profession. Yet, even in that space, Jordan felt the creeping notion that he was alone. The more he uncovered about the cases at hand, the deeper he immersed himself into a quagmire of doubt about his integrity. And as family secrets came to light, revealing his lineage of civil rights advocates, the struggle became all the more painful. The past weighed heavy, forcing him to confront a bitter truth. Just as he felt he could reclaim his narrative, a scandal erupted, threatening to shatter everything he had built. Whispers filled the air. Questions of his credibility echoed loudly in his mind. How could he confront this when he still grappled with subtle narratives of doubt? The realization clawed at him. He could either fall victim to the very biases he fought, or rise against them. Divided between loyalty to his past and the fight for justice, Jordan faced a simmering conflict, teetering on the edge of potential ruin. Whatever path awaited him, the stakes had never felt higher, leaving him suspended in unrelenting uncertainty. Jordan stood by his office window, heart pounding as he stared into the bustling streets of Atlanta. The city below seemed alive, pulsating with a rhythm that felt alien to him at that moment. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its warm glow reminded him of the sacrifices of his family, years of struggle, countless hurdles overcome. Yet here he was, feeling less like a guardian of justice and more like a target. His hands were trembling slightly as he picked up the phone to call his mentor, Detective Marcus Hale, a seasoned officer with decades of wisdom etched into his demeanor. Marcus had seen the ugliness of systemic bias firsthand and navigated through it. If anyone could offer insight in this suffocating atmosphere, it was him. "Jordan," Marcus answered. His voice, gruff yet steady, grounded him. "What's going on?" "I'm not sure I can do this," Jordan confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every corner I turn, it feels like the ground is giving way beneath me. Officer Higgins, the way he looked at me, I know I'm supposed to command respect, but all I feel is doubt. Doubt is a weary companion, but it can teach you if you let it, Marcus replied. What you need to do is confront it head on. Go talk to Higgins. Read him the riot act if you have to. He needs to know you won't be pushed around. Could confrontation be the key to reclaiming his authority? Jordan mulled over the idea. It was a difficult choice, yet the prospect of continuing under Higgins's doubt gnawed at him. Marcus, what if it backfires? Jordan questioned, his mind spiraling with the worst-case scenarios. What if it doesn't? Marcus countered sharply. You have to risk rejection if you want respect. You've come too far and fought too hard to let anyone, especially someone like Higgins, strip away your identity. In that moment, a flicker of determination ignited within him. He hadn't sacrificed everything for anyone to belittle his position. Jordan thought back to the countless times his family had endured prejudice, yet faced it with resilience and pride. Okay, Jordan finally said. I need to have a meeting with him this week. I can't let this stand. That's the spirit, Marcus said. And remember, confidence isn't about never feeling doubt. It's about how you choose to deal with it. With a newfound resolve, Jordan ended the call, the weight of uncertainty still heavy but now accompanied by a glimmer of hope. If he could stand firm, he might not only assert his place but redefine it, bringing needed change to an organization that desperately required it. Days passed, and every inch closer to the day of the confrontation, Jordan crafted speeches in his mind, rehearsing powerful words that could dismantle Higgins's arrogance. He scoured for evidence to back his authority, not merely as an FBI supervisor, but as a man who stood firm in the face of injustice. The day arrived. Jordan peered into the mirror, straightening his tie. This wasn't just about a meeting. It was about reclaiming his narrative, a journey of confronting biases that threatened to belittle not just him, but the values he held dear. As he walked into the precinct and spotted Higgins perched smugly at his desk with that same condescending smirk, doubts bubbled up again. This was it. No turning back now. Jordan took a deep breath and approached. "Mark," he began, voice steady but fierce. Before he could complete his thought, Higgins interrupted, demeaning yet again. But Jordan didn't flinch. It was time to face the storm. As he began to counter Higgins's jabs, a clash of wills ensued, and Jordan wondered just how deep the entrenchment of bias ran. Would he break through to Higgins, or would he only be met with further mockery? In that pivotal moment, he realized that the true battle lay not with Higgins but within himself, pushing against every doubt that told him he shouldn't be here. The confrontation had begun, but he felt vulnerability creeping back in, and yet his resolve surged. Whatever happened next, it was clear. The time for silent suffering was over, and clarity over his worth was poised to emerge. But as the tension escalated, Jordan couldn't shake off the feeling that revealing his truth would come at a price. And what would that cost him? The air charged with unspoken tension as Jordan faced Higgins, the room brimming with an unsettling mix of dread and determination. Jordan's heart thudded loudly, a remnant of hesitation clawing at him. But in that moment, he could not afford to waver. He had spent too long shaping his identity in defiance of the biases surrounding him, to allow a single man's arrogance to define his role. "Enough," Jordan said, voice unwavering as he planted his feet firmly. The words poured out as though they were crafted from the very essence of his hardships. "You can't belittle me and still expect to gain my respect." Higgins leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised in disbelief. "Respect? For what? You're just a novice playing dress-up in an FBI badge." "Novice or not, I earned that badge," Jordan shot back, clenching his hands into fists at his sides. He could feel the stares of his colleagues, sensing the escalating confrontation. This was no longer just about him and Higgins. It was a demonstration of what it meant to fight against an insidious tide of entitlement. The undercurrent of Jordan's emotions surged. What if he lost this battle? The fear of weakness would be crippling. But in that moment, clarity struck. His worth was not dependent on Higgins's approval. It was carved from the resilience of his family, generations that had battled against waves of discrimination far more vicious than this. "I stand for more than just my own achievements," I represent a commitment to doing what's right, not letting others define my potential. Higgins' expression shifted, a hint of anger bubbling beneath the surface, but Jordan anticipated it. He had to keep pushing, to expose the fragility behind that smirk. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Higgins spat. "You're out of your league, kid." Jordan stepped closer, narrowing the distance, embodying the confrontation while standing strong against the tide of Higgins' contempt. "Maybe, but I'm in this position for a reason, Mark. The higher-ups believed in my capabilities, and I refuse to allow your insult to erode my authority here. You're not just discrediting me, you're undermining everything our division stands for." The room paused, as if the world subsided outside the walls, granting them space for stakes to rise. Higgins recoiled for a moment, revealing a flicker of uncertainty. Jordan seized the opportunity, recalibrating his approach. "Let's be real. You think this is just a power struggle, that I'm a threat to your status. But if we are to function as a team, it takes a willingness to uplift each other, not tear one another down." He could feel the simmering resentment in Higgins' stance, but also the fissures revealing a crack in his arrogance. Caught off guard, Higgins opened his mouth as if to retort, but then paused, the air thick with possibility. "Think you're ready to lead this precinct?" he challenged. "Absolutely," Jordan replied, meeting his gaze head-on with fierce conviction. "But only if I have your respect. We both know this job isn't just a power game. It's about serving our community. It's about integrity." Higgins scrutinized him. The barrier of disdain edged with an uneasy respect. Jordan's heart raced. This was a pivotal moment for him, an opportunity to reframe an adversarial dynamic into something productive. But uncertainty still lurked in the periphery of his confidence. Would Higgins agree to shift gears, or would this be a painful yet pivotal chapter in his development? "Fine," Higgins finally spat, bitterness lacing his words. "Let's see if you can deliver. I doubt you'll last." Jordan couldn't help the smirk that broke through as he turned away, knowing full well that confrontation had forced both men to reconsider their roles. It wasn't just about proving his merit. It was a step toward greater empowerment. As he walked away, he felt a triumphant spark inside him, yet it was tinged with the fear of what this new reality might entail, the hidden contempt, the whispers behind his back. Would he have the fortitude to face these challenges again and again? As Jordan retreated to his office, the exhilaration of his confrontation eclipsed by doubts. An unsettling question haunted him. If asserting his authority brought more confrontation than collaboration, was this the price of change he had to be willing to pay? As Jordan settled into his office, he could feel the adrenaline of confrontation still coursing through his veins. The flickering fluorescent light above cast stark shadows across his desk, emphasizing the disarray of papers and case files he had neglected in the heat of the moment. He took a deep breath, forcing his mind back to the tasks at hand. Could he really lead this precinct? The conviction he had felt was now obscured by swirling doubts. Was it possible that Higgins remained an indefatigable force against him, lurking at every corner, ready to undermine his attempts? If he were to lead, he needed more than just bravado. He needed a strategy that extended beyond his immediate prowess. As he scrolled through the case files, a thought gnawed at him. What if he diverted attention from confrontation and instead focused on achieving results? The department was under scrutiny, and with its reputation teetering on the brink, an opportunity for undeniable success might pave the way for respect. He needed to address the ongoing investigations, a series of unsolved cases that had left the precinct scrambling. Jordan's intuition ticked like a clock inside his head, chiming a message. Collaboration breeds strength. He recalled the engaging tactics his old academy instructors had instilled in him. Why not bring together his team for a problem-solving session? He might not have the prestige that Higgins possessed, but he could leverage his knowledge and passion to inspire the group. In a bold move, Jordan sent an email inviting his colleagues to a brainstorming session in the conference room the following afternoon. He included metrics focusing on how previous unsolved cases had created bottlenecks and hindered collectivity among their ranks. Expediting these cases, he believed, would empower them all. But was the session destined to be a battlefield, or could it foster trust instead? He could hear Higgins's scoffing condemnation. What could a novice possibly contribute? And that familiar scrutiny began to creep in again. It was now or never. To rise above the noise, he needed to deliver results that would silence even the harshest critics. As the day passed, Jordan assembled the necessary data: crime rates, apprehension timelines, and community feedback. Each statistic formed a building block for what he intended to present. The nervous anticipation bubbled within him, heightening as he prepared. But he made a quiet pact with himself. Resolve must eclipse apprehension. When the next day arrived and the team gathered, he felt the weight of their skepticism heavy in the air. He began with an overview of the cases, his voice steadier than he had anticipated. He discussed the implications of their failures, emphasizing the need for teamwork to drive success. "Let's harness our strengths," he urged. "We have the tools and the expertise. Together, we can turn this around." Eyes flickered, but there was a gradual softening of the hardened expressions around the table. As they discussed strategies, Jordan started to sense a shift. Collaborative ideas flowed. His colleagues began to build upon one another's suggestions, and barriers visibly started to fade. He found his confidence growing with each passing moment. Yet a nagging thought surfaced amid this wave of newfound synergy. Was he truly winning them over, or merely masking the underlying tensions? While the meeting concluded on a hopeful note, future encounters remained steeped in uncertainty. Beyond Higgins, deeper issues of respect lingered, questions about whether he could consistently earn their trust resurfacing like ghosts. As Jordan left the conference room, he realized he had indeed orchestrated a spark of unity. But that unity came with its own set of challenges. Would this moment of teamwork hold as he navigated the turmoil of mistrust, or would it quickly dissolve under pressure? He glanced back toward the main office, breathing out a sigh of determination. If he had made progress today, what lay ahead might still unravel the fabric he had just begun to weave. The unsettling thought trailed behind him like an echo. What would happen the next time tension rose, not only from Higgins but from the rest of his colleagues? And in that moment, an unsettling truth hit him. Tomorrow would hold just as much unpredictability as today, and he needed to be ready for more than just brute confidence. Would he be able to transition this fragile inception of collaboration into a steadfast foundation for his role as a leader? As the elevator door closed, sealing him off in his solitary metal cocoon, Jordan felt the disorientation of uncertainty reasserting itself. He stared at the numbers ticking upward, an unwelcome reminder of the hierarchy he was still grappling with. Each floor climbed mirrored his escalating anxiety. Could he maintain the momentum he had built? Or would Higgins swiftly dismantle his fledgling authority as if it were a house of cards? Emerging into the precinct's main floor, Jordan scanned the room, noting the quiet murmurs and suspicious glances exchanged among officers. The fulfilling glow from the prior day flickered, replaced by a haunting doubt. Could camaraderie born of necessity withstand the daily grind of ego clashes and conflicting ambitions? Determined to test the waters, he decided to initiate brief one-on-one check-ins with key members of his team. Engaging with them personally might reveal deeper insights about their hesitations and hopes, making them feel valued rather than just another cog in the machine. It was a calculated risk, but necessary. He needed to steer the narrative away from Higgins and toward collective success. His first meeting was with Officer Evers, a veteran with a reputation for being reticent yet observatory. As they sat across from each other in the break room, Jordan sensed the wary energy radiating off her. "You know the new ideas we discussed yesterday? I'd love your thoughts on how we can implement them into our workflow," he started, carefully navigating the conversation. Evers crossed her arms defensively. "Look, I get what you're trying to do, but there's a lot of skepticism about the changes. This department isn't known for embracing new leadership, especially not one who's more of a rookie compared to some of us." Her words were like charcoal on soft paper, raw and jagged. Jordan felt the sting, but remained composed. "I understand the hesitation. If you don't speak up, how do we expect to make things better? Your experience is invaluable." He leaned in slightly, sensing this could either solidify a bond or crack it further. She softened a bit, but there was still apprehension lurking in her eyes. "The truth is, Jordan, People are loyal to those who have put in the years. You have to ask yourself if you can earn that loyalty, especially with Higgins breathing down your neck. That name echoed in his mind like a taunt, igniting a renewed determination within him. Gathering the pieces of self-doubt, he decided not to back down. I'm here to build trust, not just with you or the team, but for myself too. I believe we can work as something greater than the sum of our pasts. Don't you want to be part of a change that can uplift our precinct? As he articulated his vision, Evers's expression softened further, though still interlaced with caution. Just be careful. Change doesn't come easy, and it can cost you more than you think, especially in here. Grateful for her honesty, Jordan nodded, the tension dissipating slightly but leaving shadows of vulnerability. This exchange was a revelation. It peeled back layers of resistance he hadn't anticipated. Evers wasn't simply another roadblock. She was a key piece in the puzzle of transforming this environment into something more cohesive. After their conversation, Jordan felt empowered but also burdened with the knowledge that skepticism ran deeper than he had anticipated. He had to demonstrate not only his capability, but also his commitment to earning respect, which would require confronting antagonism head-on. Could he face these challenges without compromising his core values? By the time he returned to his desk, determination coursed through him like an electric current. He needed a broader plan that fostered not just dialogue, but actionable steps toward inclusivity. He envisioned workshops that celebrated input from every officer, methods to systematically create small wins that could build toward larger victories. But even as excitement buzzed in his head, he knew that shadows loomed large. Distrust formed a thick veil that could easily smother any glimmer of progress he might make. Tomorrow, he would have to confront not just Higgins, but the pervasive culture of doubt that needed dismantling. What alliances could he forge that might stand against the current of ingrained skepticism? Would his budding aspirations withstand the looming storm? With these thoughts swirling in his mind, Jordan prepared himself for what lay ahead. The upcoming shift could define him, marked by an inevitable clash with Higgins, one that might reveal the true extent of his resolve and determination to lead them all into calmer waters. Would this battle be the key to his acceptance, or merely another pitfall in the treacherous landscape of command? With the weight of uncertainty bearing down on him, Jordan arrived for his shift, the precinct itself feeling like a battlefield barely concealed behind a facade of routine. He could sense the undercurrents of skepticism rippling through the air, and each step toward his office became a conscious effort to bolster his resolve. He needed to be more than just a figure on the roster. He needed to embody leadership, confront the doubts, and compel the officers to dismiss their reservations. As he settled at his desk, the familiar aftermath of yesterday lingered. He glanced around the room, each officer intently focused on their tasks, yet Jordan knew their minds danced with doubts, inconveniently tucked away. How could he incite their inherent desire for change? He needed to amplify voices to spark ambition. The thought of workshops nestled warmly in his mind, taking root and irradiating with bright potential. Focused on this goal, he drafted a preliminary proposal to present to Evers and a few other trusted colleagues later in the day. Not only would it encourage participation from everyone, but it would also pave the way for an open dialogue that could dispel distrust. Drawing from his previous experiences in community engagement, he outlined tangible activities, brainstorming sessions, team-building exercises, and even informal challenges that could bring a sense of cohesion among officers. But the specter of Higgins lurked in the shadows, jagged and predatory. Today represented a crucial intersection between his personal aspirations and the many hard realities of the precinct. He would have to address Higgins sooner rather than later, and the prospect felt like a raging tide just beyond his control. At midday, as he rallied the selected officers in a conference room, the air crackled with anticipation. After outlining his vision, Jordan scanned their expressions, unfamiliar with trust, but retreating from skepticism. Officer Jenkins, a brash newcomer, chimed in, "Is this really going to change anything? Or are we just going to end up back at square one when Higgins says no?" Jordan felt the challenge weigh heavy on him. The question wasn't just about authority. It touched upon the very core of his legitimacy. Your doubts are valid, he acknowledged, steeling himself. But think about this. If we do nothing and accept the status quo, we'll be complicit in what keeps us stagnant. Change begins with us, not with Higgins. Together we create our environment, not him. As defensiveness faded into contemplation, he sensed a shift. They were beginning to see that Jordan was advocating for them, not himself. Each skeptical glance slowly transitioned into a hesitant nod. The foundation was being formed. Then came the moment he had been dreading. Higgins's silhouette darkened the doorway. The abrupt intrusion felt like a clap of thunder interrupting a delicate melody. Jordan's heart raced, yet he maintained eye contact with his officers, anchoring his commitment to the path he was setting. Higgins' voice boomed through the room, dismissing the collective effort. "What nonsense is this? You're wasting time. We don't need needless workshops. We need the discipline to get results." The words stabbed at the budding confidence building within the group. Jordan inhaled deeply, resolving to confront the man who embodied the very resistance he was determined to dismantle. "With all due respect, Higgins, that discipline comes from engagement and empowerment, not just orders barked through a megaphone. We can lead better if we're invested in our work and in each other." A silence fell over them, thick and suffocating. He sensed the weight of anticipation looking to him. The choice between fear and fortitude hung precariously. Higgins's eyes narrowed, assessing Jordan with a mix of disdain and intrigue. This was no casual moment. It would make or break Jordan's command. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a question stirred. Was it the right decision to challenge a veteran when the stakes felt so high? As the standoff stretched, Jordan felt the energy around him shift dramatically. Would this confrontation be his own undoing, or a defining moment of resistance? Suddenly, Higgins consumed the moment, leaning closer with a grim outline of a smile. "I hope for your sake, you know what you're doing. There's only so much leeway I can give a rookie." In that moment, the weight of his response felt monumental. Could his conviction withstand the inevitable backlash? Would he falter under pressure, or emerge as the leader this precinct desperately needed, one who claimed his authority as a shield, not a sword? As their eyes locked in silent challenge, Jordan realized that the storm he anticipated was already upon him. The time had come to make a decisive stand. Would he meet this moment with the unwavering strength required to affirm his place? Or would he find himself drowned in the waves of doubt threatening to engulf his every aspiration? The atmosphere in the conference room felt like a coiled spring, rigid with tension. Jordan's stomach churned as he absorbed Higgins's disdain. The challenge was online. This was not just about workshops. It was about redefining authority, confronting management practices stifling the precinct's potential, and ultimately about his place within this hierarchical structure. Moving beyond his initial shock, he realized that he had already set the course. Retreating now could prove fatal, not just for his proposal but for the trust he'd begun to build among the officers, who now observed with their collective breaths held. They were just waiting for him to either falter or strike the right chord that would solidify his position. He opened his mouth, determined to navigate the storm of Higgins's judgment. "I understand your concerns, Higgins, and I respect the commitment to discipline you advocate. However, we must recognize that true leadership flourishes in a culture of interaction, not isolation. Our team thrives when challenged to participate, not when sidelined for fear of failure." A glimmer of something, perhaps respect or intrigue, momentarily flickered across Higgins's face. Were others seeing a glimmer of a new Jordan? Hesitantly, he contorted his arguments into a spear point aimed both at Higgins and at the self-doubt growing like a weed in his chest. "I'm not asking for your approval. I'm asking for us to cultivate an environment where we learn from mistakes instead of punishing them. Yes, discipline is crucial, but how we apply that discipline determines if we inspire growth or compliance." Jordan's voice elevated, fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and realization. This conversation wasn't solely about professional decorum. It was personal. Every word mattered. He was inching closer to establishing his identity as a leader, one built on trust rather than fear. The silence that followed was thick, each officer held captive by the moment. Jordan felt their collective energy morph, palpable and taut. It became clear that pleasantries were no longer fit for this room. A subtle shift in Higgins' posture hinted that his approach was less about authority and more about defending a fortress. The predictability of Higgins was boring and mediocre, yet oddly terrifying. Before Jordan could respond, Higgins countered, "You think you can lead by enabling the team to flounder without proper direction? That's naive, kid. The streets don't care about fostering feelings. They demand results." "The streets may not care about feelings, but they do respond to trust, influence, and reliability," Jordan fired back. "If we are to face the real issues out there effectively, we need to cultivate that very trust within our ranks first. An officer without faith in their team can hardly be expected to inspire it in the community." Higgins shifted his weight, fully aware that Jordan had tuned the dialogue sharply towards professional ethics. Yet the flicker of animosity in Higgins' eyes revealed a deeper threat. His resistance hid beneath the surface, ready to summon any means to uphold his reign. As the tension festered, something inside Jordan surged, a newfound clarity of purpose. He could see the challenge wasn't about ideology but survival, both professionally and personally. The precinct had been a battleground for as long as he could remember. It was time to change the weapons of choice from confrontation to collaboration. A faint praise resonated within. He recognized his journey was not merely breeding authority, it was understanding the very fabric of leadership itself. With this revelation, he embraced the discomfort, relishing the path ahead. In that moment, the conference room shrank into a world entirely of his own making. Could he truly manage to connect threads of resilience through fear? His journey had just begun, and with every second that passed, he was carving out identity against a tumultuous backdrop of doubt. But the lingering question remained. How far would Higgins go to dismantle Jordan's determination? And would the other officers rally behind Jordan, or would they retreat to the comfort of outdated norms? With those uncertainties echoing in his mind, Jordan squared his shoulders as Higgins leveled another penetrating gaze. It was time again to navigate this precarious landscape, and he felt the stakes rise higher than they had ever been. Jordan's heart raced as he sensed the impending clash with Higgins would not resolve simply or easily. The air in the conference room pulsed with unspoken fears and anxieties, a battleground where ideals fought for supremacy. Yet, in the depths of this anxiety, Jordan felt a spark of resolve almost intoxicating. The game had begun, but he was no longer just a pawn. He was ready to redefine the rules. He understood now that the confrontation lay not just with Higgins but within himself as well. Each challenge twisted the knife of self-doubt deeper, yet it also sparked something else, an evolution. He recalled mentors who had guided him through darkness and the flicker of belief they'd instilled within him. Unbeknownst to them, they were more than leaders. They were architects of his brand of authority, which he would now fiercely embrace. "Look, Higgins," Jordan began, steadying his breath to keep tremors out of his voice. "I'm not naive to the realities we face out on those streets. I know the risks are high and the stakes higher. Trust does not mean disregard for discipline. It means understanding that discipline can inspire rather than intimidate." Each word dripped with determination, a testament to the clarity crystallizing within him. The other officers shifted subtly as if they felt the power of his conviction. It was exhilarating and terrifying. A measure of tension released from Higgins as Jordan continued, now fully invested in his role as a leader. "If we bind ourselves to fear, we will not just fail the precinct, but we will fail the community we serve. Great leadership requires vulnerability as much as strength. It's about building connections that serve a purpose." The grip of shame that often clouded his resolve started to dissipate, revealing the burgeoning leader within. Higgins' brow furrowed, his defenses bristling like a spiked wall. "You think standing around discussing emotions is going to get the job done? People want to see action, not touchy-feely talk. This is a hard job, and we need hard solutions." Jordan realized that Higgins' fear had morphed into a form of stagnation, mirroring a deeply rooted anxiety that gripped the precinct, the need to maintain control at all costs. But what if those hard solutions will only darken our path? What if we need to reimagine our approach to make it more effective? What if leadership is about showing our officers that they're not in this battle alone? Higgins paled slightly, and for a moment uncertainty clouded his posture. It was fleeting, but it was a crack in the armor. The others were observing closely, and Jordan could sense their shifts, tiny movements of aligning themselves either with a perspective of trust or an allegiance to status quo. A pulse of adrenaline surged through him. This was the inflection point. The room had become a microcosm of a larger ideological war, reflecting the way forward for not just his position, but potentially for the precinct itself. He pressed forward, keenly aware of the stakes. If we want to ride the waves of change, we must equip our officers with the tools needed to be confident decision-makers. I am willing to collaborate, to listen, to adapt our methods. Our success will not be measured by authority, but by the respect we earn from our community and from one another. Jordan felt the weight of every officer's gaze as he initiated this dialogue. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation, and Jordan could sense the officers weighing their collective futures against jaded norms. Would they embrace change, or cling to the familiar? Just then, Higgins turned his eyes toward the distant windows, deep in thought. Jordan could hardly breathe, fearing the moment would shatter under their tension. This was more than just a confrontation. It was becoming a pivotal moment in his life. Then they all heard it. The unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing from the hallway, growing louder. Confrontation loomed, but this time it was different. Jordan's heart resumed its rapid cadence, tension shifting in a new direction. Would it be an ally, a challenge, or something entirely unexpected? Looks like we're not alone anymore. The steady voice of another officer pierced the tension. Jordan's insides churned, awareness surfacing. Who was arriving, and how would their entrance tilt the balance of power? As the footsteps drew nearer, an unsettling curiosity rippled through the room. The anticipation thickened, and Jordan felt the gravity of the moment pressing against him. Who was coming, and what role would they play in this unfolding drama? A door swung open, and in strode Officer Ramirez, his presence commanding immediate attention. A veteran with weathered features and a reputation that preceded him, Ramirez had a distinct ability to diffuse tension, yet his expressions conveyed layers of emotion that hinted at a profound inner conflict. He scanned the room and quickly assessed the charged atmosphere, his brow furrowing slightly. "Sorry to interrupt," Ramirez said, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "I walked past and felt the intensity from the hallway. What's going on here?" In an instant, the focus shifted. The collective gaze of the officers now lay on Jordan, as if he were tasked with explaining a volatile decision. He sensed the immense challenge ahead. He would need to communicate the essence of the argument without losing the thread of momentum he had just gained against Higgins. "We're discussing how to redefine leadership in the precinct," Jordan responded, his heart racing at the risk of exposing his own uncertainties. "We need to foster trust among the team rather than maintain control through fear." Ramirez nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. "Interesting, but how do you plan to get those reluctant officers on board? You know as well as I do that old habits die hard around here. Some won't be ready for the ride you're envisioning." The officer was right, and the realization struck Jordan with an unmistakable force. This was more than just about personal growth. It involved winning the hearts of those who might see his new strategies as threats to their status quo. "Change is only possible when we collaborate," Jordan insisted, the cadence of his thoughts sharpening. "We need to connect on a human level first. When a bond of trust is established, officers will feel empowered to take ownership of their roles, and this could ultimately safeguard their well-being." A moment of silence followed as Ramirez measured Jordan's words. Gradually, the tension broke when Ramirez finally shrugged, an enigmatic smile creeping onto his face. "Can't say I disagree. You've got something there, Jordan. But in my experience, a show of strength often piques interest more than a show of vulnerability. You will have to prove you mean business, or the skepticism will spiral out of control." Jordan felt a rush of indignation but also recognition. Ramirez was right. He needed to strike a balance between embracing vulnerability and demonstrating decisive leadership. He had to remember that every officer in the room was also grappling with their own set of challenges, fears, and misconceptions. Each perspective brought value to the conversation, even if it clashed with his own vision. "Then let's blend that strength with vulnerability," Jordan proposed, emboldened by Ramirez's approval. "Let's host an open forum where everyone can express their concerns, while also gaining insight into why these changes matter. We can build that trust through transparency." With renewed purpose, he turned his attention back to Higgins, aware that this moment had profound implications for both his future and that of the precinct. "It's going to take all of us to make this work, but together we can shift the narrative. We have the opportunity to redefine our department's legacy." But Higgins's expression remained unreadable, casting uncertainty over the budding alliance. Jordan's determination surged as he awaited a response, the stakes climbing higher. What if Higgins rejected the idea, closing the door on collaboration with a quick dismissal? In that moment, Jordan realized his challenge required more than just courage. It demanded strategy. The atmosphere grew heavy with the weight of unspoken words pregnant with possibility. Would they finally stand together? Or would old fears suffocate the vision he fought so desperately to achieve? Behind Ramirez, a single figure appeared at the doorway, her silhouette fierce and commanding. Jordan's skin prickled. A respected supervisor with undeniable authority, she had a reputation for demanding excellence. And she would be arriving just as they were poised on the brink of change. Would she support his approach, or would her presence reignite Higgins' obstinacy? Jordan inhaled sharply, curiosity and dread intertwining as he prepared for the fresh wave of tension that would sweep through the room. As the newcomer stepped into the conference room, the already charged atmosphere became electric. It was Chief Anderson, her sharp gaze surveying the conflicting dynamics within the room. The very sight of her elicited a mix of awe and apprehension among the officers present. With her authoritative presence, she commanded respect in ways words often failed to convey. Jordan's pulse quickened. This was the moment where he had to consolidate the ground he had fought so hard to gain. "What's happening here?" Chief Anderson asked, cutting through the tension with clear authority. Jordan recognized the opportunity and seized it. "Chief, we're discussing ways to cultivate trust within our team. It's vital for our effectiveness in serving the community." He stepped forward, no longer the uncertain novice but a leader ready to embrace vulnerability and purpose. Higgins narrowed his eyes, preparing to launch an assault against Jordan's momentum. But Chief Anderson held up her hand, signaling for silence. She turned her attention fully to Jordan. "I've noticed some shifts around here. More than just procedural changes. There's a change of heart happening. But I need to understand why you believe trust will solve our issues." "That's the crux, Chief," Jordan replied with conviction. "Trust is the foundation upon which we can build cooperation, making us not just a department that enforces rules, but one that empathizes, listens, and learns from one another. Our officers will not fear speaking up if they believe their voices matter." As Jordan spoke, he felt the stares of his colleagues shifting from skepticism to tentative curiosity. He felt stronger, bolder, leaning into the realization that he was not merely defending his position, but advocating for something vital: collective integrity. Higgins, sensing his own position wavering, blurted out, "Chief, you can't endorse this touchy-feely nonsense. Leadership needs authority, not camaraderie. The streets won't wait for us to build bonds. We need results." Chief Anderson's gaze sharpened, and Jordan sensed that Higgins's words carried less weight in her presence. "And what do you think results consist of, Higgins? Fear? Commands? Or do you believe true action emerges from trust and cohesion?" The room fell silent. A quiet understanding ignited as the two authority figures clashed ideologically, spotlighting the contrast between their leadership philosophies. "Exactly," Jordan interjected, emboldened. "We can't lead effectively if we don't understand our team. Everyone is feeling the strain, and that creates a vacuum where doubt festers. We need to be the ones who elevate each other to achieve results, not diminish confidence." Chief Anderson held Jordan's gaze steadily, assessing the resolve in the young supervisor's eyes. "Do you honestly believe you can shift the prevailing culture?" A wave of uncertainty washed over him. This was not just about Higgins but about the systemic issues embedded deep within the precinct. But this was his chance. Yes, if we set the standard. I've already taken steps to foster collaboration. Let's hold an open forum where each officer can voice their concerns and contribute to solutions. A few murmurs of approval rippled through the room. On the periphery, Ramirez nodded in quiet support. And why should we trust that this is the right direction? Chief Anderson pressed, her focus unwavering. Because I've learned that strong leadership lies in serving those you lead, Jordan replied, his voice steady. By prioritizing their input, we can craft effective strategies based on shared experiences, not merely decided from a conference table. At that moment, something in Chief Anderson shifted. Her expression softened, a flicker of recognition gleaming in her eyes. The foundation he was building was not only about earning respect, but about navigating uncharted waters together, rallying each individual to elevate their shared purpose. "All right," she said finally, nodding slowly. "I will support you on this forum, but you'll have to lead through action. Results will follow commitment to what you're preaching." Relief flooded through Jordan. Perhaps this was the breakthrough he needed, not just for himself but for the entire team. Following the chief's approval, laughter began to bubble as his colleagues exchanged glances of surprise, the tension shifting into a prevailing sense of camaraderie over competition, Jordan's true vision coming to life. Higgins attempted to maintain his defiance but only belied his fears. "We'll see if your ideas can hold any weight out there," he muttered, frustration etched in his features. Jordan felt a simmering pride. Uncertainty still lurked, but he would meet it with purpose. He had claimed his narrative, transformed doubt into decisive leadership, and evoked a wave of change that promised to stir the rigid currents of the precinct. As the conference dissolved into discussions of planning and preparation, Jordan's heart surged with triumph. He had stepped beyond self-doubt to foster an environment of trust and collaboration. Looking around, he recognized that accomplishing a significant cultural shift was not merely a personal victory. It was a collective endeavor. Jordan's voice, the voice of the undervalued and unseen, had emerged not just as a leader, but as a catalyst for growth. Riding the tide of determined energy, Jordan resolved to not just sustain this spark but to ensure it flourishes into a flame. He was prepared to view each challenge from this moment forward as an opportunity, a chance to elevate both himself and those around him. The fight was far from over, but with this newfound clarity, Jordan rallied everyone forward, ready to usher in a landscape where appreciation prevailed over skepticism. And with that, as the precinct began to exhibit the first signs of a deeper transformation, he regained something he thought lost amidst the backlash: his unwavering confidence. This was just the beginning, and there would be no retreat. Now, as a true leader in resilience, he was ready for whatever came next in the journey, a journey fueled not just by authority but by connection, understanding, and shared purpose. You need to subscribe now to stay on top of more exclusive emotional stories of personal overcoming. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for our mission to inspire others. Comment your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share your thoughts and spread the inspiration.